One of the things that I've noticed that as I continue to heal it and grow, it is a lifelong process that doesn't mean that I'm living in misery or unhappy or anything like that. It actually means that I'm living in a really good place and I'm noticing the fine tuning that would benefit me. So, one of the things that I've always had difficulty with, and I think a lot of us who have grown up underneath a narcissistic parent, my mother is a sociopath and a narcissist. I've been no contact for over 30 years for the most part. There was a blip, there's always a blip. Anywho, one of the things that I noticed is my own body language. And studies have shown that predators identify either consciously or subconsciously from them the body language of a possible victim, somebody who isn't making eye contact or makes it in a certain way, somebody who holds their body, somebody who's shrunken down. Some of these predators are so good at what they do, they can tell by a walk. And actually, I'm going to get the book. Hold on. Uh, this is the book that talks about some of this in it. I mean, there's lots and lots of studies, but I really like this book. So if you want to learn more about psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, the whole nine yards, how they work, how they might be necessary to society but should not have children or get married or have personal relationships, anywho, see this book. It talks about how they look for people who can't hold space, who don't have personal, physical boundaries at a minimum. That's an entry point, right? And I'm not altering my behavior because I'm concerned about a predator, because I can throw down verbal boundaries or I have internal boundaries and that sort of thing. So I'm not really concerned at this point in my life falling prey for any period of time. It doesn't mean that I'm bulletproof. I mean, 3 years ago, I left a relationship where I was with a malignant narcissist who was also an alcoholic. There was domestic violence, the whole nine yards. So I'm not impervious, although I've learned a lot from that. So I kind of think I'm at a safer level. I'm much, much more aware than I was at that time. And I have to say that that relationship was the first time I was in a domestic violence relationship since I was about 19 years old. And when it happened, I was able to leave very quickly because of my previous experience. That doesn't always happen, because the trauma bond and all that. Anyway, let's get back to what I've learned. I just want you to know that I'm like anybody else, right? I'm going to have my moments. I am not bulletproof. I am, though, very aware of myself and my surroundings, and I prefer to move very slowly in relationships and carefully, and not because I'm not trusting, but rather because I know that a person who's able to move at a slower pace, who's also building trust in me, is more likely a healthy person, because I have become a really healthy person. I'm not a person who betrays myself anymore, for example. I'm not a person who creates my own chaos anymore, for example. I've gotten into a really good groove in place because I love the little girl inside of me. I love myself, and I treat myself in such a way that anybody else who falls below what my treatment to myself is doesn't have a chance with me. I know, long way around. So the thing that I've noticed is I still have this little remnant about my right to take up space, and also the way that I fawn, which that's still alive and well, or freeze in a situation. And it takes me a while to come around. And sometimes I can do it in real time and sometimes I can't. And if I don't, I'm not punishing myself for that. I'm like, okay, what did I learn? I'll take it into the next situation. Unfortunately, as long as there are people who are toxic, rude, predatory, whatever you want to call them, there will always be an opportunity to practice not fawning and not freezing, right? So I've noticed that sometimes when I'm out, particularly, if I'm out at a lounge or something like that, and somebody comes and stands next to me, if they start to move into my space, I start to do this. And I mean, there was one time I was like leaning on the table, sideways, looking at the people next to me like, what is happening here? Because this person was intentionally trying to like have their arm against mine. My arm was bare. I wear a lot of, I'm in a sunny location, so I wear like strappy things and whatever. And I really like was like just over. And it took me a little bit, I mean, enough time that I'm over basically leaning on a table to kind of go, oh, I have a right to take up space. What am I doing? Little Marnie, come on, straighten up, girl. And now, actually, because of that popped it into my awareness. When somebody stands next to me, if I start to go like this, I immediately straighten up. Because we all have a right to stand in our own space. As a child growing up underneath a narcissist, not only did I not have a right to take up space, I didn't want to. I wanted to be invisible so that I wouldn't be hurt, which is why I do that. My other little body language thing, which by the way, my ex-husband would point out many times back in the day, we haven't been married to each other for like, I don't know, over 20 years. We've been divorced longer than we were married. And he is somebody who's quite a caretaker. He has a degree in psychology. He's a good dad, like he's a good person. I was not in a relationship with someone who was doing things to me to beat me down and all the things that I had learned were normal growing up. I was very fortunate. And he was fortunate too. Some things run their course, right? And one of the things that I used to do actually too, and I still find myself doing that. If I enter a new situation, it's my instinct to just kind of close myself off, protect myself. And as soon as I do this now, though, I straighten up. Even if on the inside I'm uncomfortable because that's what created this piece of body language here, I stop doing it. And the more I don't do it, the more at ease I am in new situations because I recognize that I'm safe in my own body and I don't need to do things to make myself smaller to be safer. That actually doesn't make me safer. It makes me more vulnerable to people who are predatory, right? The other thing that I used to do, this was with my ex-husband. I don't know that I would do it anymore. I haven't been in a relationship in a while. I don't think I would, is I would do this combined with, if he was standing next to me, I would slowly move back and be behind his arm a little bit. And he would then move back and go, no, you take up space and you stand next to me. I don't think those were the words, but it was something to that effect. Creating awareness around what I was doing. You have a right to stand next to me. You should be next to me. You don't stand behind me kind of thing, right? And he said that in a way to build my confidence, just so that we're clear. And looking backwards, I think about it now and I recognize that I have a natural, or little Marnie has a natural desire to be protected. And I just have to remind her that I'm here doing that very well because I'm her good mom. So what about you? What is something maybe that you noticed, something you'd like to improve, something you have a question about? Let's heal together. Let's grow together. And as always, I really appreciate you being here. Drop a comment, ask a question, and I will respond.